So Cathy,
Hi, Mother.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this whole Manatee business?
Yeah, I was an undergrad in California and in biology, just general biology, taking a lot of zoology and botany classes and not really knowing where I wanted to go, but I was also a part-time worker at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles, and I volunteered at a marine museum, Cabrillo Marine Museum in Los Angeles. So I was sort of testing, different things, but really loving the biology, and for a while there really was loving entomology, and one of the people that I met through my work at the Natural History Museum was Bob Burnell. And at the time, he was in charge of the marine mammal program for the Department of the Interior. And manatees had just been listed under the Endangered Species Act and Marine Mammal Protection Act. They were listed there. And a field station was opening in Florida.
Now what year would this have been?
That was in 1978 when he was opening the field station in Florida through the Natural History Museum through the National Museum in Washington. So he came to the museum. He had his collection of gray whales from his PhD work at the LA Museum. And so he came there pretty frequently, and both Bob and I had gotten to know him. And he just out of the blue one day said, "You guys want to go to Florida?" And at the time we didn't know if he was offering us both a job or, we didn't really know what it was going to entail. But he told us, about manatees, a little bit about manatees, and we knew what manatees were. There were actually some skeletons at the museum.
Oh.
I worked in the large mammal collection, so I knew, I knew that side of it, the museum aspect, and so we didn't know too much about the job, and we didn't really know what to expect, except he said the main thing is they've just been listed. We need to determine the causes of death. What's the sources of mortality? What's happening with the species? We don't know anything. Well, we were, in the course of our work at the museum, we were picking up whale carcasses for museum specimens. And so he figured we had lots of, salvage experience. So we just said, yeah, I guess we'll try it for a year, see how it is. I was still an undergrad. I was just about to graduate, but we didn't really have, excellent job prospects. I didn't have excellent job prospects. Was looking for a job and trying to figure out what to do next. So we took it as an opportunity and really just expected to try it out for short term. So
was Bob putting together the whole Sirenia project at this time, and you and Bob were part of that?
Yes, he had hired Galen Rathbun and Kristen Bruger and us, and that was it. And then Buddy Powell was here already working, under Duke Campbell back then, and that was the Sirenia project. And Blair Irvine was here as well.
Great.
And also had been working on the Herb project. So we all sort of came in new. Everybody came in new, and he decided it was going to be the Sirenia project. Bob had decided that, and we kind of had our marching orders and said, okay, carcasses, you retrieve them and do the necropsies and figure out causes of death. So and then we were working with Dan Odell at University of Miami. So he had the southern part of the state, and we had from St. Lucie north and Fort Myers north. So we had a huge portion of the state. There were fewer carcasses then, but there was one or two a week usually on average. Tom O'Shea joined the project just a few years after we did, or a couple of years. It wasn't very long, and he was a huge influence because he was such a good scientist. Not that everyone that we were working with wasn't, you know, but he was such a good educator, really. And so I know and I think probably many others here were so inspired by what he was doing and his encouragement and his ability to just sort of let you be, to do. And he actually really protected us from a lot of the bureaucracy.
I see.
To just work, you know, do the work and see what you could do. And I don't think I appreciated it as much then as I do years later, you know, what really all that he did, you know. But I learned a lot from him, and I think that encouragement, you know, kept me going, because, you know, it was, especially in those early years with salvage, and even today, but especially in those early years with salvage, it was a lot of work. You never knew when a carcass was going to come in. Weekends and holidays were always busy because that's when people are out in their boats. And, you know, there was no extra compensation. There wasn't like comp time or overtime or anything like that. You just did the job.
A lot of long hours
A lot
sometimes.
of long hours, a lot of late hours, a lot of uncomfortable conditions. I mean, if you're doing a necropsy in the woods and it's summer in Florida, you've got the heat, the humidity, the flies, the biting flies, and the mosquitoes, and, you know, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, I guess we toughened up a little bit. But, you know, again, we felt like there was a reason for it, and I think, you know, there was a reason for it, but, you know, there was a purpose. And so, you know, that it was difficult, but it was rewarding at the same time.
What would you say have been the biggest challenges for you in terms of, say, balancing your work demands with the rest of your life and that sort of thing?
Well, for good or bad, my work has kind of become my life. So the biggest challenge was when our kids were young, and, you know, you know, of course they were my first priority, but I had these other commitments and obligations. So, you know, they got brought along on some field trips and captures and such. And you know, I think that was the biggest challenge. Is there was no way I ever would have anticipated that the job would have entailed so many more hours than what people think a job is, 40 hours a week, you know. I could work 40 hours a week, but I wouldn't get anything done. So I think, you know, I think that's just the reality of research, and maybe a lot of other jobs as well, you know, but there's not enough resources to hire enough people to do everything that needs to get done. So if you want to get it done, you just better want to do it. And I'm not complaining about it, you know. I've enjoyed it, so I guess that's why I'm willing to do it.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of your idealism has led to a path that has produced rewards as well as those challenges. Is that correct?
I've enjoyed the work. I think the other thing that I didn't anticipate in probably the first decade, I actually thought that we'd have everything figured out and have all the questions answered, and yay. And we'd be done. Yeah. But it seems that the big challenge has been that every time we find out something or solve, you know, some question, prove a hypothesis or whatever, 10 more questions are presented. You know, we'll never know it all, of course, and so it's been. I've been very gratified and really excited about so many new people coming in and interested about the research. A lot of students, a lot of other researchers, because all of a sudden all these, you know, dozens of other questions can be examined, maybe not fully answered again because they ask a question and 10 more open up, but more people are working toward, you know, finding out more about this unique order of animals. So that's been huge. I think the other, well, it's the same sort of reward is the opportunity to work with so many researchers, not just on the manatees, but on all the sirenians, the other researchers working on dugongs and you know, Amazonian manatees and just all the other manatees, and the students, but also researchers in other fields of study that want to compare, you know, manatees with whatever they're working on, and that has been really interesting. So
it's really opened your perspective.
It has opened my perspective, and I think that just took, you know, time.
Now, I also happen to know that you have developed some interesting educational tools for younger people in order to, you know, get them interested and educate them about manatees and what's going on with manatees in Florida. How have you found those interactions with younger people?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. It started with like an open house. You know, the government, various centers have open houses, and they want us to present our research to the public, and so it was a kind of how do you do that? How do you present what you're doing without dumbing it down, you know, but explaining to people not only maybe as a little snapshot of how they can participate and do it as well, but why? You know, I mean, we don't just take pictures of manatees and identify them for the fun of making the match. I mean, that is nice when we're able to make the match, but again, the whole point of it is to look at the ability to estimate annual adult survival and reproductive parameters, etc. So the thing that I thought, the choice that I made to bring it to the public, and especially to children, was to a matching game. So that was the primary one. They all like artifacts. They all like to hold a bone or hold, you know, a radio tag or something like that. But they're a little bit challenged by the matching game. So I just took a board of pictures of some of our well-known animals. You know, it was just take, you know, 20 of your 2,800 animals,
right.
and then take another picture of the same animal but taken at a different time. And of course, they never are in the same pose. And then hand out these little pictures to whoever wants to play the game, and they have to see if they can just match that picture of that animal to the picture on the board.
So they're using the scar patterns?
They're using the scar patterns.
Marks
But some of them are the same scar pattern but a different angle.
Okay.
You know? And then some of them are animals who have acquired new scars. So this may be a picture taken 5 years ago, and the picture in their hand is this year, and now it has another scar. And so they have to like really work at it, because the feature that we maybe are matching it on is not as distinct as the new big scar that they're seeing. And so that some of them are more of a challenge, and others are easy, you know, easier. So it kind of depends on the level of interest. The eye, it's amazing to me how good kids are at this game. A lot of them are really sharp, and a lot of them really look at it as a challenge. They want to match every animal on the board, so they just want to keep doing it, and I just let them. And then when they make a match, we made like little trading cards, you know, so there's little cards.
Prize.
Yeah, a little prize. That's their prize, with a picture of the manatee, some manatee facts written on one side, and then on the other side with the picture, a history of that individual. individual.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So yeah, they get to know that animal, and I'm hoping that then they care a little bit more about not only manatees, but just everything. We try to tell them a little bit about where the animal travels and, you know, where it lives, what areas it uses, and they should want to care about those environments, I hope.
Right.
That's part of it.
Good. When you think about, you know, all the years you've spent working with marine mammals and manatees and all these richly varied experiences you've had, not only with manatees, but with other people, and, you know, how your perspective has opened up over, with the contacts you've made among different researchers and things that you never dreamed of.
Never dreamed.
How do you translate that into, you know, thinking about younger people, like let's say people that are 12 or 13 or 15 that are showing an interest in the environment, endangered species, marine mammals, maybe manatees specifically. Let's say it's a young person growing up in the state of Florida. Can you kind of give us your perspective on what suggestions you would have for them, or what kinds of thoughts you would have for them about how to nurture that into a potential rewarding work life like you've had?
Well, I think I hope they're idealistic, and I hope that they're willing to, I hope they're passionate enough to stick with it and do the work, whatever it takes. And if they are, no matter what they choose, I think if they have that passion and they have that work ethic, they will succeed. I mean, that's my opinion. Luck's going to have something to do with it, opportunities that you don't know. I feel that it's going to be more difficult for anyone now than it was for us because of the economy, you know, just because jobs are, there's more people competing and there's fewer positions. But I guess if I were to do it again, or if I were starting out, I would hope that someone would tell me to specialize, because as a undergrad, I think you need a really broad background. I think that helped me a lot because I took a lot of botany classes. That helped me when I all of a sudden had an opportunity to look at diet, you know, manatee diet. Even though I was interested in the zoology, it's all interconnected, and so I think when you're starting out, that you should be a generalist, but I think then you should specialize, because then you're the only one who's the expert in that, and if you can do that, then you might find your niche rather than just, you know, being one of the many who can do everything. I mean, I think that that's important if possible. I also would say that don't have any illusions that you're going to get rich as a biologist. But it'll always be interesting. You know, if you love it, it'll always be interesting, and there'll always be questions and challenges, and, you know, you'll never be bored. I mean, you should never be bored, honestly. So yeah, I think that's I think the specialization would be good. I don't know. I get a lot of requests from students who want to come in, want a job, and I understand they want a job, and I understand they need a job, but they have nothing to offer me, other than they're willing, you know, to be here. And because there's so much competition now, the way you're going to get your foot in the door is to be willing to work and learn, and for nothing, basically. And it's unfortunate, because I know that, you know, you have to eat, but there's so many people who are willing to do that, that, you know, you got to be able and willing to do that. Looks good on your resume, for one. but it also gives us the opportunity, and everybody else out there, the opportunity to see, for you to show them and for us to see what they are capable of, what they have to offer. You know, what might be a good fit for them. Right. Either to say, you'd be really good at this, but also to advise them, you know, you seem to be more interested in, you know, this aspect. Have you thought about this? Because high school age, say, they may not even realize that other choices are out there as a career path, you know, just other opportunities. So being willing to come in and volunteer your time not only, you know, helps us some, but also helps them knowing more about what maybe where their strengths lie. Right. So I think that's really good. And also not just saying, well, I can come in 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. You know? You have to be able to dedicate enough time where you actually learn something, and we can count on you, you know, to be there. So, but there are an awful lot who are willing to do that.